Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about how not to frame a valuable poster. This is a Villemont Ballet. It probably has a value of a couple of $1,000s. This piece has come into us to be deframed and to be reframed correctly. Even before opening it, we can see some issues with this. To begin with, we can see there's no protective covering over the back of the canvas here. Now, bugs love to eat canvas. It's one of their favourite things. They eat the back of it. They also have a tendency to nest in the bevel down the bottom here, over time causing issues to the canvas itself along in here, and will cause bubbling in there and often eat right through the canvas as they breed in there. We also note that the edges of the canvas, the surplus canvas, has been cut off. This makes it awfully difficult in the future for anyone to re-stretch the canvas. As you can see, it's become fairly loose on it, and being a fixed corner canvas, it has now no ability to be re-stretched, so it causes difficulties there. I'm just removing the attachments from this, which are really rather clumsy attachments fashioned out of D-rings, which are really used for hanging. The correct item to use for these are canvas offsets, such as these, that allow a bit of movement in the canvas without drilling into the canvas. And having now removed the clumsy hangers from it, I'm now removing the picture from the frame. It's been taped in within a minute of its life. So something holding it around here still. Tape. And we lift the piece out. My immediate reaction is that it's hard up against the glazing material. Regardless of what that glazing material, it should not be pushed against it, as the image becomes lost to it. And I'm not sure whether it's picked up on the camera, but on the glass we can see some of the image. You can see here where some of the ink has been lost from it, where it's been pushed against the glass. This often happens due to condensation that occurs within the framing package, and therefore the ink, being a petroleum-based ink, will attach itself to the glass. There should always be a separator in there, and unfortunately this is pretty much irreparable damage. We can put more ink on it to cover it over, but the original ink is now lost completely. You might also be able to see, if I get it in the right light, there's a fair amount of wrinkling coming up across the piece. This isn't uncommon, and it's quite difficult to avoid this over time as it expands and contracts. But the unfortunate situation of trimming off all the excess at the back of the frame means it becomes very difficult to re-stretch this tightly. Moving on now, we'll just set this aside. If we have a look at the piece here, we're talking about a piece here that is some 1500 mils long by 1200 mils wide. There is some spacer, again fairly clumsily put into this, but it hasn't really performed its duty. Most importantly, this is glass. It's 2mm thick glass. From a danger point of view, this is horrendous. If you're putting a mirror in, it is the law requires that if you're putting a window in a glass into a window frame at this size, the requirement would be 6.38 laminated glass for security reasons, for very good security reasons. If your child or a friend should lean against this and break it, you very easily end up with a number of stitches. There is no way that anything other than acrylic should be used in this frame. This is dangerous, and it's wrong that this has been put into this frame. Just one final point on this, having now pulled this apart, you can see the size of the frame here, and in my opinion, this frame is nowhere near substantial enough to hold everything that was within it. The stretcher was sitting out the back of it. The frame is 20mm deep by 40mm wide and really has little strength to it. You can see there the corners are already coming apart on this piece. In every corner they're already loose because it doesn't have the physical strength to hold the piece of work. So just to recap on what should have been done, starting at the top, the frame should have been a deeper frame, more substantial frame to hold a piece like this. The glazing on a valuable piece should be UV absorbing to stop the artwork from fading. The glazing should be acrylic, not glass, so as it's not dangerous. there should be a substantial spacer between the artwork and the frame, at least 10 to 15 millimetres thick spacer within there to separate the artwork from the glazing. The back of the artwork should have been covered in a calico, not a solid plastic or solid cardboard because it needs to breathe, but a calico backing which is insecticide to stop the insects from going in and out, from breeding within it. The stretcher frame itself that the piece is on should have been held in using canvas spacers that therefore allow the piece to have a little bit of movement in there but holds it in without screwing into it. And the canvas, the excess canvas on the back of the artwork itself should not have been trimmed back, so it can be allowed to re-stretch again at a later time. Thanks very much, I hope this helps.